Right.
The stream is live. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bulwark's live coverage of the Republican National Convention currently happening in Milwaukee. Lee Greenwood is singing, I assume, the one song he ever sang, which is I'm Proud to Be an American, which, by the way, I love that song. I used to sing that song. I come from a small town. Everyone sang it for the talent show. People seem pumped to hear this song again, but I have with me Marc Caputo and Will Saletan. Marc Caputo is there, been running the floor. He showed up sweaty from racing back from the floor to tell us what's happening. So, Marc, we'll start with you. What is going on tonight?
What's going on tonight is a lot unlike what I saw in 2016 at the convention in Cleveland. Like, that one was just a shit show of division. You know, there was an effort to bounce Donald Trump or reject his candidacy or his nomination. This is like sort of like a revival. People here are ecstatic. No one has any doubt, and I don't think they're lying to me. Now, whether they're lying to themselves, we can discuss later. But everyone here thinks that Donald Trump is going to win, that Joe Biden is the walking dead, and it's a really kind of festive atmosphere here. So if you don't like Donald Trump, which I suspect a few folks out there don't, this is not the convention for you.
I do not care for the man myself, I must say.
So I've heard.
Okay, we'll get more from you since you're there reporting. We've got actual reporters there. But Will, I want to talk just briefly. Some of the big people who are going to speak tonight: Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Tom Cotton. But what strikes me is that tonight is the night for the people who ran against Donald Trump in the primary and were pretty tough on him. So, haters gonna hate, but these guys are showing up to what? Push party unity, get the band back together. Like, what do you make of the lineup tonight?
Well, this reminds me, so Marc has drawn a distinction to 2016, and I understand that, and that makes perfect sense. But I feel like I'm watching a recapitulation of what happened over the course of Donald Trump's rise within the party, which was, at first, people were like, well, he's on the outside, we're going to stop him. And then he starts steamrolling people, and he just gathers momentum. And then you get to the stage where a bunch of other people just capitulate. They're like, well, he's going to be our guy. He is our guy. And now we're at the stage where Biden is collapsing. And so there's this additional thing of, well, hell, Trump's going to be president. So everybody who is at all prone to sucking up is now sucking up. And so there's just this gravity of, Haley and DeSantis and everybody and Ted Cruz, everybody has folded into the tent here. And we've got this mutually reinforcing division among the Democrats and unifying among the Republicans.
Yeah. Okay. Is that, and can I just ask you, I want to hear with you, Marc, but who is this person speaking right now? Savannah?
Reality TV star. Come on.
Which reality, which TV, which star?
This reality, and otherwise I have absolutely no idea. I probably should have looked that up, but this is
when it just says reality TV star, is there not a show?
I presume that there is, but this is in keeping with this convention. They had Amber Rose yesterday, and they introduced her as a rapper. She's not a rapper. She's just some sort of social media famous person who dated someone else who was famous. But that's kind of the sort of pop culture nature of a total Donald Trump convention, right? You have sort of almost as many reality TV stars and social media influencers as you do some of your more, traditional politicians. In fact, you're probably going to have more of them than you will cabinet members or former cabinet members of Trump who are going to be speaking.
Okay, cool. Well, tell me, Marc, who have you caught up with there? Who are you talking to?
I'm trying to actually talk to you don't really have regular people here, but I'm trying to find, I'm just trying to get a really good handle in talking to the different swing state, Republicans. And I'm just I've been probing around and sort of checking the skirmish line to see if there's anyone out there with any doubt. And so far I haven't found any. Now, some of the more interesting dramatic moments I think that we had here, this blazed across Twitter, and unfortunately I didn't witness it, was Matt Gaetz found Kevin McCarthy doing an interview on the floor of the convention with Caitlin Collins from CNN. And Gaetz kind of got in his face and started mocking him for not being able to give a speech because he's a nobody now. So that kind of gives you an idea of the Florida men here. And Corey Mills, who's the congressman, Joe Perticone, our colleague, had seen this, apparently got upbraided by security for trying to get in through the media line and tried to pull the "do you know who I am? I'm going to talk to your supervisor" card. And that didn't work for the congressman. So Florida men showing out, showing strong.
Congressman Karen. Okay, that's what we got. Would you say, Marc, would you say that there's been a theme to the conversation? I will say I was watching Vivek Ramaswamy earlier, and he was giving a full-throated cri de coeur about the importance of law and order to the Republican Party. Now, I find that curious, considering they are poised to nominate for the first time in American history a convicted felon. But what do I know? But other than that, what do you like thematically? What are they talking about?
Yeah. Thematically, it's just a showcase of make America great again, make America strong again. The entire idea is this unity thing. However, unity doesn't mean not saying divisive things. It just means unifying the party to fight the left.
Sure.
So that's sort of an important distinction to understand with them here. It's a load of, because it's a Donald Trump convention. You know, it's called the Republican National Convention. It's really sort of the Trump National Convention. It's loaded up and larded with not just your traditional conservative themes, but the fair share of praise for Donald Trump, his rightful return. Of course, they see no contradiction between calling for law and order and having Trump as the nominee, because in their view, it's all been weaponized justice, et cetera. It's a very seamless thought process here.
Got it. Will, if you were Ron DeSantis, do you think Ron DeSantis gets like a warm reception from this crowd? Like, what does the crowd make of a Nikki Haley or a Ron DeSantis, do you think, these days?
Well, you know, I think there's a difference between what the convention organizers want the crowd to do and what the crowd is doing. What was it last night, Marc? There was some woman who was like a former Democrat, or she had voted for Joe Biden, and she was supposed to exemplify Biden to Trump converts in 2024. And the crowd just started booing her. The delegates were, I mean, and I don't think that was what was intended, but like the atmosphere of hate, you know, anybody who is at all not with us or was not with us is so strong. I think it kind of foils that kumbaya thing that the convention organizers are trying to do. So they may expect DeSantis to sort of fold into the tent here and the crowd should welcome him. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get what they're looking for here. They had Kristi Noem on last night, and she got to be the governor who stood up to Fauci and, you know, and the vaccine and all that stuff. And so
dogs.
Yeah. I think that was to stick it to DeSantis. Sure. So DeSantis is now going to show up, and I am not concerned, but I would expect the crowd to not do what the convention organizers want. That may not be a very welcoming reception.
Do you think that's right, Marc? Like,
I think Nikki Haley probably.
Yeah, Nikki.
I think Nikki Haley faces a far greater chance of boos than DeSantis, but yeah, DeSantis could have it. My guess is, to kind of answer your question, I think you're going to ask, like, is this what they want, the sort of spectacle? I don't really think so, but I think they'd be comfortable with it. It is notable that up in the box with Donald Trump, when Ron DeSantis will give a speech, Senator Rick Scott from Florida is supposed to sit by his side. Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, I don't want to say they hate each other, but the amount that these two politicians dislike each other is impressive. And I don't think it's a coincidence if Rick Scott winds up sitting next to Donald Trump when Ron DeSantis has to give his groveling speech and, you know, kind of praise, you know, the almighty leader of the party. After all, Ron DeSantis' former advisor, he fired Susie Wiles, is the campaign co-manager of the Trump campaign. She is not a fan of Ron DeSantis. And also, she, in addition to being a mastermind of Trump's 2016 Florida comeback and Ron DeSantis' 2018 Florida comeback, she originally helped engineer the 2010 campaign of then Governor Rick Scott. So I think that they're intentionally going to sit Rick Scott next to Trump just to send a little extra message to DeSantis. That is my guess. As far as them wanting people to boo, I'm not quite sure. I don't think they would really want it. I know some of them in the Trump campaign didn't like Matt Gaetz pulling his little routine on the floor because it's just sort of unseemly for them. But, you know, folks are going to folk, you know.
So weird that they can't get all the gracious
I think I froze.
energy from the big
Oh, there we
Donald
go.
Trump fans. Quick question about the VP pick, Marc, just because you and I talked about this, and I gotta say, I really thought you and I talked about this on the focus group pod one time, and like you were the one who got me convinced it was going to be Marco Rubio. Tough day for Florida, man. He got passed over after, sold the whole soul, went all in, gets nothing in return. But do you have any sense of how Marco is coping with this? And like DeSantis, it just seems like everyone from Florida is sad. Like Trump is making all the Florida men sad, right? No?
Yeah, that could be. I mean, Marco Rubio, I think in the back of his mind, he knew he wasn't going to get it. And so he always made sure not to be as full-throated for this. If anyone earned the endorsement, or better said, the nod to be a running mate, it was J.D. Vance. I mean, Vance was just like white on rice with Donald Trump. Right up until a few days ago, I do believe what the Trump campaign says, that Trump had not decided. Right after Trump got grazed by a bullet in this assassination attempt, he's trying to give this he's planning to do this sort of unity message. And we can leave aside whether people are going to believe that or not. And Vance just shot out of the cannon, just started attacking the media, attacking Ben Thompson, and then attacking Joe Biden, just essentially previewing how he would be as an attack dog, a vice president running mate for Donald Trump, while Trump was basically still in the hospital. And so, Trump decided to make him nominee. He worked for it. Marco Rubio didn't work for it as hard. Yeah, I think even if Marco Rubio had worked for it, I'm not sure he would have gotten it. Trump was just so hung up on the residency issue under the 12th Amendment. They basically can't be from the same state. Sure, Marco would have changed his address, but from what I understand, in conversation after conversation, Trump just kept returning to that as a fixation. Now, whether he genuinely believed that it was using it as an excuse, I'll leave that to others, but that was just sort of an insurmountable thing in the end for Rubio, in addition to the fact that Vance did a great job persuading Trump to pick it. And, Vance, prior to this, was an understudy of Peter Thiel. So he has a history of knowing how to strike good friendships for older men who happen to give him access to power and help him along the way. And I think he applied those skills here with Trump.
Okay. So Vance got himself a sugar daddy. A new one. Cool for him. What do you make of the Vance pick, Will? Because I gotta say, I've been kind of thinking, so I've been turning it over in my head, and maybe it was Caputo who said this, that I've been thinking about, where he said like they kind of just seem to like hanging out together. Maybe they're kind of two peas in a pod. They enjoy each other's company, and maybe it's not anything more than that. But I couldn't decide. I can't decide, and I want to know what you think. Whether it is a show of tremendous confidence from Trump to say, I don't need a Rubio who's going to help me with these college-educated suburban types. I'm going to double down on MAGA and the industrial Midwest, the Ohio, the Pennsylvania, the Michigan, the Wisconsin. But so I guess what I'm asking is, on one hand, Vance doesn't get him much with these college-educated suburban voters. On the other hand, there does seem to be a sense that he might play well in the must-win states to get to 270. But so I can't tell if it's a big shot, like a confidence play from Trump, or is it a shore up the states we gotta get thing? What do you think?
So I'm firmly in the confidence camp. I think that Vance doesn't particularly add to that mix so much. I think Vance is a loyalty pick. Remember, Trump he's not running with his former vice president, the guy who refused to do his bidding on January 6th. He has picked in Vance. If you looked at the short list of vice presidential contenders and you said, what distinguishes them? One of the key distinctions was Vance was the person who was most emphatic that he would do whatever Trump wanted. He was the one who not only said that on January 6th, he would have let Congress decide the election, but he also was the guy who said, a couple of years ago, if the Supreme Court ruled against the president, Vance would say, well, you just come and enforce it. That old line about how the Supreme Court has no real power. So I think if Trump wants a loyalist, someone who will do what he wants, Vance is the right guy. That's, to me, what distinguishes him most.
Yeah, I do. Trump he loves breaking people. You know, one of the things that I'm watching happen is a lot of people are sharing Vance's old statements about Trump. You know, like, this guy is heroin for the masses, and, like, you know, was really down on the sort of populist authoritarianism that Trump represented. And then the conversion, right? And what is it? The zeal of a convert, right? JD Vance has that, the zeal of a convert. But if you talk to people who I followed his Senate campaign really closely because it was you know, in the primary. And so I focus grouped him a lot. And it was weird because people did think he was kind of callow, and like the about face on Trump was the thing that they really knew about him. On the flip side, there was always this element of a lot of people changed their minds about Trump, right? A lot of people, and Trump, I think, loves to both break somebody and then own them, right? Like he did with the Republican Party. I think that's deep in his psychology. Vance fits that. But also Vance is the conversion story, right? Somebody who went, like, I think people are sharing the early stuff from Vance being like, see, he once said this, or listen to this stuff that he said about Trump. But actually, every single one of those statements is just data for Trump that you can, like, change your mind. He is a walking permission structure for people to get on board. And so I guess I wonder whether you think it's smart to look backward at the things that Vance has said before, or whether we should be looking forward at, like, the way that Vance seems to know how to implement the agenda that Donald Trump has just sort of vomited out. And seems like he'd be the guy who would be committed to making things happen.
Yeah, a couple of things, Sarah. First of all, let me go back to what you said about Rubio. I think you're right about the whole Trump loves breaking people thing. But very often, usually, in fact, the pattern is he breaks them, they suck up, and then he stiffs them, you know. So Rubio gets the back of the hand. And so, and honestly, a lot of us, we've enjoyed it. Let's be honest. We've watched people capitulate to Trump, people who said what Trump was, retracted it, and then Trump said, no, you're not going to get what you wanted for that. So Vance,
it's true. I do like it when people sell out and then they don't get the thing. I take some pleasure in that.
But let me come back to what you asked about looking back versus forward. The looking back stuff I don't think is useful, except insofar as we're asking the question, is Vance a phony or like an America First zealot? And the reason to look back to me is, at this point, we're hoping. Remember, Mike Pence turned out to be a nightmare for Donald Trump, because it turned out Pence actually believed this stuff about being a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. He wasn't going to, like, overthrow the Constitution for Trump. So Trump's not going to make that mistake. He'd rather go with a phony. And at this point, I would rather have a phony. I would rather have believed that Vance is susceptible to various pressures than to believe that Vance seriously believes a lot of the America First stuff. Because my fear, Sarah, is, like, if Donald Trump picks this guy, Trump gets elected, drops dead, where does Vance go? Because Vance is like hardcore isolationist, hardcore America First. I'm a little alarmed by where that could go, as opposed to even to Trump, who at least doesn't really believe anything, and, you know, might be less inclined to do really even more dangerous things with America's role in the world than Trump would.
And looks like we have Donald Trump has entered the floor. He's got a bandage over his ear. Okay. Is he going to take the stage? He's not speaking tonight, right?
No,
Marc?
no, he's going up to his box. Remember, I told you Rick Scott is going to sit next to him. That's what I was told. So we're going to see if my sources were right. And, you know, I'm writing a story right now, which should hopefully it's going to run on Thursday, about white voters and Trump. Like, one of the things that we love to talk about Black voters and Hispanic voters, but what really killed Trump between 2016 and 2020 is he lost a huge share of the white male vote. And there's some polling that indicates he's clawing it back. And an element, not entirely, of the Vance pick has an eye on that. And in going through the clips from 2016 to see what Vance said about race and white people and Trump, and having the benefit of hindsight, what really struck me is you can read those quotes of Vance sort of trashing Trump, not because he thought Trump's ideas were bad. He was just kind of envious that Trump was talking about the stuff that he'd want to do, but just in a much more boorish and sort of cartoonish way. So I guess I have a little, a little different read on it. Is I think he was just sort of turned off by aspects of Trump's personality. And I think his conversion is probably real because, I mean, these guys care about winning and losing. And once Trump won, and once Trump could help him then win in 2022, Vance was all in.
He's still got the beard, Marc. I know you said that the beard might be a deal breaker.
That Trump doesn't like beards, and that was the final buzz as to some people's speculation as to why Vance had not been named sooner. After our story, by the way, he did wind up trimming his beard more, which is notable.
It does look very neat and kempt. Although I will say, I believe that is Eric Trump next to his father on the other side, who also has a beard. And one wonders if that's why
That's Corey Mills.
Corey Mills. That's the guy who.
It's Corey Mills. No, not behind him. It's to the other side. He's out of frame right now. He's just out of frame with all his friends. No.
Oh, we got Joe Biden. Okay, I guess they're playing a video montage trashing Biden. So here we go.
Cool. Hey, here's another thing, Marc, that I wonder if you could say something about. But what is the impact? I see Trump is making sure that I'm sure that maybe he needs that. He probably needs that bandage, whatever. But it's a good reminder to everybody that there was a recent assassination attempt on him. Is that everybody talking about that, or how much is that looming over the event?
Not much at all. What I said earlier about this place almost having kind of like a revival feel, the religious overtones that a lot of these people have about Donald Trump is, even for the devotion that you'd seen in the past from Republicans at events like this, is really striking. I mean, they think he's an instrument of God. Most of the chatter about his ear and whether there was some doubt that he would even show up on the floor and be seen. Some people thought he wouldn't want to be seen injured. That mainly was a lot of TV reporters were chatting about that because TV is very obsessed with images. But I haven't detected or heard any talk within the campaign or among sort of top level advisors or confidants about that. Now, there's two schools of thought. He could just sort of go bare, but apparently his ear is all kind of gnarly and he's a little embarrassed about it. So that's why you're seeing the big, thing on his ear.
Will, what do you think? Do you think that why aren't they maybe leaning? I haven't seen all the speeches, but when I was listening before, I didn't hear anybody really kind of talking about the assassination attempt. It seems to me it could be a dominant theme, and that it's kind of not.
Yeah, they have talked about it some. Sarah, the thing that has really struck me so far tonight, and I assume we're going to see more of it, is there's this obviously a big law and order theme going on.
Yeah.
So some of it is like the border. Some of it is, Kamala Harris helped get people out of jail and then killed other people. So they got a Willie Horton thing going on. So that's the traditional thing. And Johnson talked about, the attempt on Trump and political violence. And he said, we're the party of law and order. So that's obviously, meat and potatoes theme for the Republicans. And that is interspersed tonight with every other speech talking about Trump being prosecuted. Like Rick Scott said, Trump is being treated, quote, treated as a criminal, all because he never backs down. Elise Stefanik said, corrupt Democrat prosecutors and judges wage illegal and unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. So they're all pro law and order until you get to Trump, at which point they're the evil justice system is persecuting our hero.
Sure. Okay, guys, we now are in I guess we'll call it the VIP time slots, where we've got Ted Cruz. And because I hate my life, I'm going to go listen to Ted Cruz talk. I want the rest of you to watch this. We are going to come back around 10:30 and recap what we've heard. We should have had at that point Cruz and Haley and DeSantis. And so there'll be a lot to discuss and break down after this. And we hope you guys will come back and join us around 10:30 and we will chat some more. Okay. Go enjoy your Ted Cruz, people. Thanks, guys.
Joe Biden. Look around you. This arena holds about 18,000 souls. Now imagine 639 arenas just like this, filled to the brim. That is 11.5 million people, larger than all but 8 states in the nation. But the numbers don't show us the true price that our country is paying. Every day, Americans are dying. Murdered, assaulted, raped by illegal immigrants that the Democrats have released. Teenage girls and boys wearing colored wristbands are being sold into a life of sex slavery. This is evil and it's wrong. And it is happening every damn day. Think of Kate Steinle. She was 32, walking with her father on a San Francisco pier when a bullet tore through her heart. The man who fired that gun, he'd been deported 5 times. Every damn day. Think of Laken Riley. Just 22 years old, a nursing student with dreams of healing others. She went for a jog and never came home. Her life taken by someone who should have never been here. Every damn day. Or Rachel Marin, a beautiful mother of 5, raped and murdered in suburban Maryland by an illegal immigrant the Democrats released. Every damn day. Or Jocelyn Nungary, only 12 years old. It was just 1 month ago today that she was brutally raped and murdered in Houston by 2 men who were supposed to be detained and monitored, but instead released and allowed to roam free. Every damn day. These aren't just stories or statistics. They're our daughters, our sisters, our friends. The families don't care about the empty numbers. They care about the empty chairs at the dinner table, about the voices they'll never hear again, about the laughter lost, and about the dreams that will never be fulfilled. I've sat with these families in living rooms where the silence is so loud that it hurts, where photo albums are opened with trembling hands. How did we get here? It happened because Democrats cynically decided they wanted votes from illegals more than they wanted to protect our children. Today, as a result of Joe Biden's presidency, your family is less safe. Your children are less safe. The country is less safe. But here's the good news. We can fix it. And when Donald Trump is president, we will fix it. We know this because he's done it before. I know this because I worked hand in hand with President Trump to secure our border, and we achieved the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. It's real simple. He's done it before, and he'll do it again. So tonight, I speak for Kate and Laken and Rachel. Tonight, I speak for Jocelyn. And let us go forward together and keep our sacred oath to defend the Constitution and to protect the American people. Let us secure our borders, enforce our laws, protect our children, and restore the future. Because when we do that, when we remember who we are and who we love, and we act to protect them, then and only then will we truly make America great again. Thank you. God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former law enforcement officer Randy Sutton.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Hello, America. My name is Randy Sutton, a police lieutenant. I was a police officer for 34 years. I was one of the most highly decorated officers in the history of my department. And then I founded the Wounded Blue, an organization dedicated to helping injured and disabled law enforcement officers. I've dedicated my life to law enforcement. And I'm here to tell you one thing, America. Donald Trump is the best friend we will ever have. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a plague of crime across America. The endless tsunami of illegal aliens, no consequences for violent crime, the abuse of our criminal justice system. It's all made America more dangerous than ever before. Police are the thin blue line between criminal predators and their victims. Donald Trump and Republicans stand that line with our police. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, well, they stand with the criminals. The last few years have been devastating for our police. The war on cops is very real, and it's getting Americans killed. Last year alone, more than 70,000 law enforcement officers were physically assaulted. They were shot, they were stabbed, they were beaten, they were hit with bricks. And in the last 5 years, 1,834 made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives in the line of duty. But all of this will end on the day we elect Donald J. Trump president. But my friends, it's not just the physical violence. It's the relentless effort to divide the people from the police. This is about the soul of America. Make no mistakes. If the radical left succeeds in defunding and destroying policing as we know it, they will break apart the cornerstone of our system, law and order. Well, amazing. Thank you. But I'm going to tell you, there's one man that these pro-criminal, anti-police extremists fear most. And that is the once and future president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Before I finish my remarks, I want to do one thing, and that is salute our president. America, I make this promise. Our police will never waver from their mission to serve and protect, even at the risk of their own lives. But they need a true leader who will have their backs. Donald J. Trump is that leader. Thank you. May God bless you. May God bless those that walk the line, and may God bless America.
From the very first day that we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, I believe that we're going to have 4 of the greatest years in the history of our country. I will once and for all secure our elections. We're going to go to paper ballots. We're going to have same-day voting, voter ID. We're going to do it properly. We're going to have good, secure, beautiful elections. We never want what happened in 2020 to happen again. But until then, Republicans must win. And we must use every appropriate tool available to beat the Democrats. They are destroying our country. Whether you vote early, absentee, by mail, or in person, we are going to protect the vote. That's the most important thing we have to do, is protect the vote. Keep your eyes open, because these people want to cheat, and they do cheat. And frankly, it's the only thing they do well. We will make sure your ballot is secure and your voice is heard. Many Republicans like to vote on Election Day, and we must swamp the radical Democrats with massive turnout on Tuesday, November 5th. The way you win is to swamp them. If we swamp them, they can't cheat. It just doesn't work out. But if you can't make it, you need to make a plan, register, and vote any way possible. We got to get your vote. So with your vote, we will win a victory the likes of which no one has ever seen before. We will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House, and we will take back our country on November 5th, 2024, the most important day in the history of our country. That's what it's going to go down as. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Iowa Attorney General Brena Bird.
Good evening, Milwaukee. My name is Brena Bird, and I am the Attorney General of the great state of Iowa. A few years ago, I was a local prosecutor locking up bad guys. But in 2022, I ran for Attorney General and beat the incumbent Democrat who was first elected when I was just 2 years old. We won because Iowans were ready for an Attorney General who would protect them, not the criminals. An Attorney General who would stand up to Joe Biden and the radical Democrats, and an Attorney General who would defend our constitutional freedoms. But perhaps more than anything, Iowa voters wanted an Attorney General who would back the blue. Unfortunately, Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have made life miserable for law enforcement. They treat police like criminals and criminals like victims. And tragically, many crime victims feel abandoned by a justice system that doesn't seem to put their interests first. They deserve better than what these defund the police Democrats deliver. Yet the radical left believes in handouts, not handcuffs. Democrats like Harris use words like reimagine the police. They're probably imagining more DEI programs for the police. Harris even said that putting more cops on the street wouldn't make communities safer. American families disagree. Never forget. The Democratic Party is the party of defunding the police. They said it, they mean it, and they can't wiggle out of it. Republicans get justice for victims, and we put criminals where they belong, in jail. That's why we need to elect President Donald J. Trump. President Trump knows that keeping Americans safe isn't a 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. job. And rank and file cops know that President Trump, he has their back. It touched our hearts when earlier this year, President Trump attended the wake of a fallen New York City police officer. We all owe heroes like Officer Jonathan Diller a debt we can never repay. President Trump knows this, and he shows his gratitude. Joe Biden was also in New York City that day, but instead of honoring our heroes, he attended a glitzy fundraiser with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. None of them went to pay their respects. That day, we saw Democrat priorities, and we saw Donald Trump's priorities, and we saw that Trump's values are our values. I urge everyone listening to stand with law enforcement and vote to make America safe again. I urge you to vote for Donald Trump on November 5th. Thank you, Milwaukee, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Governor of South Carolina and Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley.
My fellow Republicans, President Trump asked me to speak to this convention in the name of unity. It was a gracious invitation, and I was happy to accept. I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period. Our country is at a critical moment. We have a choice to make. For more than a year, I said a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for President Kamala Harris. After seeing the debate, everyone knows it's true. If we have 4 more years of Biden or a single day of Harris, our country will be badly worse off. For the sake of our nation, we have to go with Donald Trump. But there's more to it than that. We should acknowledge that there are some Americans who don't agree with Donald Trump 100% of the time. I happen to know some of them. And I want to speak to them tonight. My message to them is simple. You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. Take it from me, I haven't always agreed with President Trump. But we agree more often than we disagree. We agree on keeping America strong. We agree on keeping America safe. And we agree that Democrats have moved so far to the left that they're putting our freedoms in danger. I'm here tonight because we have a country to save. And a unified Republican Party is essential for saving her. For those who have some doubts about President Trump, I want to tell you a few things about the commander-in-chief I know and worked with. As ambassador to the United Nations, I had a front row seat to his national security policies. We sure could use those again. Think about it. When Barack Obama was president, Vladimir Putin invaded Crimea. With Joe Biden as president, Putin invaded all of Ukraine. But when Donald Trump was president, Putin did nothing. No invasions. No invasions, no wars. That was no accident. Putin didn't attack Ukraine because he knew Donald Trump was tough. A strong president doesn't start wars. A strong president prevents wars. Then look at the Middle East. every problem in that part of the world can be laid at the feet of Iran. The dictators who chant death to America are the bankrollers and weapons suppliers for Hamas and Hezbollah. They're behind the barbaric massacres and the hostage taking. Once again, compare Trump and Biden. Trump got us out of the insane Iran nuclear deal. He imposed the toughest sanctions ever on Iran. And he eliminated the arch terrorist Qasem Soleimani. Iran was too weak to start any wars. They knew Trump meant business and they were afraid. And then there's Joe Biden. He lifted the sanctions. He begged them to get back into the nuclear deal. He surrendered in Afghanistan. He sent every possible sign of weakness. Even now, while Hamas is still holding Americans hostage, Biden is pressuring Israel instead of the terrorists. Between Israel and Hamas, Donald Trump is clear about who is our friend and who is our enemy. Then look at the border. It's the single biggest it's the single biggest threat Americans face. Under Joe Biden, migrants are coming into our country by the thousands every day. We have no idea who they are, where they end up, or what they plan to do. And let me remind you, Kamala had one job, and that was to fix the border. Now imagine her in charge of the entire country. Under Donald Trump, we didn't have the border disaster we have today, and we won't when he is president again. I was proud to serve America in President Trump's cabinet, and I'll tell you something you won't hear from the critics. He appreciated advice and input. Americans were well served by his presidency, even if they didn't agree with him on all things. Now, to my fellow Republicans, we must not only be a unified party, we must also expand our party. We are so much better when we are bigger. We are stronger when we welcome people into our party who have different backgrounds and experiences. And right now, we need to be strong to save America. This is a defining moment, not only for our party, but for our country. Our fellow Americans are fearful right now. Families are suffering from inflation and wages that don't keep up with prices. Young people are being indoctrinated to think our country is racist and evil. The Jewish community is facing an obscene rise in anti-Semitism. Too many minorities are trapped in communities devastated by crime. Our foreign enemies win when they see Americans hate each other. They see that today, whether it's on college campuses or in a field in Butler, Pennsylvania. But we can conquer those fears with strength and unity. No president can fix all of our problems alone. We have to do this together. America has an amazing ability to self-correct. In this moment, we have a chance to put aside our differences and focus on what unites us and strengthens our country. Let us join together as a party. Let us come together as a people, as one country, strong and proud. Let us show our children and the world that even on our worst day, we are blessed to live in America. God bless you. Thank you. God bless the United States of America.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis.
My fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House. Life was more affordable when Donald Trump was president. Our border was safer under the Trump administration, and our country was respected when Donald Trump was our commander-in-chief. Joe Biden has failed this nation. As a veteran, I was appalled when 13 of our service members were killed in Afghanistan due to Joe Biden's dereliction of duty. As a citizen, as a husband, and as a father, I am alarmed that the current president of the United States lacks the capability to discharge the duties of his office. Our enemies do not confine their designs to between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. We need a commander-in-chief who can lead 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. America cannot afford 4 more years of a weekend at Bernie's presidency. But let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Biden is just a figurehead. He's a tool for imposing a leftist agenda on the American people. They support open borders, allowing millions and millions of illegal aliens to pour into our country and to burden our communities, but just don't send any to Martha's Vineyard, then they get really upset. They have unleashed progressive prosecutors across our nation who care more about coddling criminals than about protecting their own communities. They use the unelected bureaucracy to impose their will on us without our consent, and they weaponize political power to target their political opponents like they've done to our own nominee. They want to ban gas automobiles, eliminate Second Amendment rights, and impose gender ideology on everyone from our infantrymen to kindergartners. They stand for DEI, which really means division, exclusion, and indoctrination, and it is wrong. They mandated that you show proof of a COVID vaccine to go to a restaurant, but they oppose requiring proof of citizenship to cast a vote. They can't even define what a woman is. Now, Donald Trump stands in their way, and he stands up for America. Donald Trump has been demonized. He's been sued. He's been prosecuted, and he nearly lost his life. We cannot let him down, and we cannot let America down. It is the values of this Republican Party that reflect our nation's founding principles. We believe schools should educate, not indoctrinate. We stand for parents' rights, including universal school choice. We support law and order, not rioting and disorder. We seek a strong, focused United States military, not one distracted by a social agenda. We reject entrenched political class, and we demand term limits for members of Congress. We stand for fiscal sanity, for low taxes, and for reduced debt. We seek to reclaim the constitutional government as envisioned by our founding fathers by bringing the administrative state to heel once and for all. We believe that you must be a citizen in order to vote, and that photo ID should be required before casting a ballot. We stand for strong borders and believe that our nation must have a shared civic culture, and we oppose any immigration that stands apart or in contrast to our American values. We believe in the principles articulated in the Declaration of Independence that our rights come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of the Almighty, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, none of this is easy, but it can be done. For decades, my home state saw elections determined by razor-thin margins. Today, due to bold leadership, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. The left is in retreat. Freedom reigns supreme. The woke mind virus is dead, and Florida is a solid Republican state. Now, electing Donald Trump gives us the chance to do this all across America. And we have a responsibility to step up and make it happen. We have a responsibility to preserve what George Washington called the sacred fire of liberty. This was a fire that burned in Independence Hall in 1776 when 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish this nation. It's a fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, when our nation's first Republican president pledged this nation to a new birth of freedom. It's a fire that burned at the foot of the Berlin Wall in 1987, when our nation's 40th president stood in front of that wall and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." This is not a responsibility we should fear. It's a responsibility we should welcome. After all, if not us, who? And if not now, when? Let's make the 45th president of the United States the 47th president of the United States. Let's elect Republicans up and down the ballot, and let's heed the call of our party's nominee to fight, fight, fight for these United States. Thank you. God bless you. Let's win in November. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's the mayor of Magaville, baby. Hey, you know who we voting for? We voting Donald Trump, baby. Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. Trump, baby. November 5th, we going crazy. November 5th, we going crazy. Red pill poppin', swerving in the Trump. Republican 4G, Antifa knows what's up. Red, white, and blue, mega nation, throw it up. Black, white, and brown, all about the Trump. Democrat party gon' take your freedom. Indicting our president cause they can't beat it. It's a two-tier justice, two-tier. Put America first, we the big. FJB, 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 FJB. Let's go, Brandon, sing it. We voting Donald Trump, baby. Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. November 5th, we going crazy. November 5th, we going crazy. Now I pledge allegiance to vote for Trump. There's a red wave coming, you gon' surf for what? And God I trust to take the devil away. Lock Joe Biden up and throw the key away. Your propaganda ain't gonna work on me. Bidenomics is like you working for free. I demand reparations from every idiot that voted for Joe Biden, boy, period.
Great. I'm live. I couldn't take that anymore. I don't know about y'all, but boy, Horatio Blow, or whatever that guy's name is. That's not good rap music. It's not good rap music. I'm sorry. That little elf Ron DeSantis, I had to sit here in my hotel room and watch that little elf Ron DeSantis after I got off of cable. And I felt like I just needed to share my thoughts with you. He's an angry little man. It's amazing that he has so little dignity that he was willing to do that. Donald Trump, per Fox Business, which is what I'm watching for some reason, came early to watch Rob DeSantis humiliate himself and Nikki Haley in front of him. He wanted to be able to laugh at them and stare at them as they sucked up to the person that called them sanctimonious, that made fun of the shoes that he wore, that said he was a little wearing high heels, that just really, tore at his manhood. A guy that called Nikki Haley racist nicknames, admitted that he was calling her racist nicknames, admitting it was a play off of wherever she's from. It's really pathetic that these two people, you watch those speeches, you think either of those people are ever going to be the nominee of this party. But they want to keep their options open. So they went out and gave those speeches. And the Nikki Haley speech in particular, I just have to say, on the heels of the J.D. Vance pick, you can see here shortly, they're about to show the two of them, J.D. and Donald, sitting together. But this notion that Nikki Haley wants us to believe that she has disagreements with both candidates, but that she knows that Donald Trump will keep America secure and that that's more important and that is more in line with her, is just such bullshit. It is utter bullshit. Donald Trump picked the most isolationist, the most anti-NATO, the most anti-Ukraine, the most anti-Nikki Haley vice presidential choice imaginable. That is going to be what his administration looks like. Everything that Nikki Haley claims that she cares about, sticking with our allies, strength abroad, American leadership in the world. These guys, these two jokers, they don't care about that. They don't care about that. They're going to be happy to let Putin run roughshod over Ukraine. Nikki stands up there on that stage and says Putin wouldn't go into Ukraine when Trump was president because she's scared of his strength. It's like, what? They've already said that they're going to let Russia keep Ukraine. Keep the parts of Ukraine that they're in, at least. Who knows? Probably more. We'd have to wait and see what a Trump-Vance administration would look like. That she cares about rule of law and all this, conservative government. These guys don't care about any of that. This is a soft fascist, authoritarian, aspirational movement and it is a ticket that is going to prioritize firing people from the federal government, putting loyalists in place, deporting a bunch of people, large mass deportations, withdrawing America from the world. Like that is going to be what they prioritize. Nothing that Nikki Haley cares about. And she just has to stand up the stage and lie to us and BS people in some faint hope that somewhere in the future, this will be a party for her. When you saw in the crowd, people booing her. It's pathetic and it's embarrassing. There's one other thing I got to rant about. That maybe won't be as cathartic for everybody. But I do have to say this. This convention has been not uniting at all. The DeSantis speech making fun of Joe Biden and acting like he can't even be the president and sending him back to his basement. Then who was it? Mike Johnson speech about how the two parties have these fundamental, existential differences. Like they're not trying to unite. They're not trying to really reach out to Democrats in any meaningful way. There's no, olive branches happening as we get to Tom Cotton coming out here. You can let me know if you really are desperate to hear Tom Cotton, I can stop talking. But what they haven't done is really do a ton of stuff that's going to super freak out swing voters. You can pull clips from this. There's some extreme rhetoric. There's some extreme policy positions. Obviously, their position on abortion and other issues will be used. But they have toned down, the bloodlust that you might have seen following the event on Saturday. And it has led to kind of a little bit of a weird convention, a little bit of a rudderless convention. But I think that there was kind of this worst and best case scenario in a weird way, like worst for the American Republic, worst for our body politic, but maybe would have been good for Democrats had they really offered a very scary fascistic convention in the wake of the attempted assassination. They've not done that. They've done a lot of stuff. They've espoused a lot of policies that are far right, that are not popular, that are not conservative even, frankly. But at least through 2 days, that's the one thing I watch. In some ways, that's a relief. But in other ways, it's going to, I think, highlight the challenge the Democrats have. And frankly, I think that the video clips that are going to be the most useful coming out of these last 2 days are the video clips of J.D. Vance's fucking insane, stupid interviews over the last few months, more so than what we've seen on stage here. So anyway, Nikki Haley, shame on you. Ron DeSantis, you angry little elf. It's not happening for you either. Sorry, bruh. And those are some thoughts I had for you. I got booted from the MSNBC seat by Rachel and Lawrence, so I had a little extra time. So I figured I'd come hang out with y'all. I'll be back here tomorrow, and we'll be back for a post game with maybe me. We'll see what's happening with my other job. But the whole crew, Sarah Longwell, etc. Hang in there. You guys are sickos for watching this stuff, but we appreciate you. Thanks for doing it with us. That's your cue, Barry.
Most said for a job. A few admitted because they could get in. Another answered with one simple word: Biden. My flight home the next day was full of these migrants. And you, all of you, paid for their tickets. That's our choice. A secure border and an immigration system that works for all of our citizens, whether your ancestors bled with George Washington, or like Manuel in Arkansas, you just took the oath of citizenship, or Joe Biden's chaos. Donald Trump said, you can't have a nation without borders, and he defended those borders. Joe Biden thinks borders are racist. Donald Trump will secure our border once again. Donald Trump banned travel to America from terrorist-infested countries. Joe Biden allowed ISIS to smuggle terrorists in. Donald Trump will protect America once again. Donald Trump insisted that immigrants must stand on their own 2 feet, the oldest principle of American immigration. Joe Biden gave migrants welfare, free hotels, and more. Donald Trump will stop migrant welfare once again. Donald Trump ended bogus asylum claims. Joe Biden created an app to let illegals schedule their arrival. Seriously. Donald Trump will stop this migrant fraud once again. Donald Trump cracked down on hiring illegals. Joe Biden let illegals take American jobs. Donald Trump will protect America's workers once again. So what choice will we make? Will we choose Joe Biden, open borders, amnesty, and chaos? No, of course not. We'll choose Donald Trump and his record of security, prosperity, and stability. As Manuel said, things were good with Donald Trump, but everything has gone to hell under Joe Biden. But this Biden chaos will end soon, because it's time for us to elect President Trump to secure our border and to make America great again. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Coyle from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Good evening, Milwaukee. My name is Michael Coyle. I'm from Philadelphia, in an area of Kensington, one of the worst neighborhoods in America. Kensington has long struggled, but in the last few years, things have gotten much worse. Our streets are plagued by drugs. You'll find human feces in front of your business or someone lying dead on your front steps. Politicians say nice things or clean up the streets for a couple weeks in an election year, or when someone famous visits, or even when there's bad news. But as soon as the politicians are no longer afraid for their jobs, we are no longer afraid for our lives. Our children grow up seeing this, thinking it's normal, but there is nothing normal about this. This should not be the norm happening in the richest nation on earth. As a dad and small business owner, I had to do something. I started a nonprofit to improve the neighborhood I love and shared videos online of the horror we live with. In just one day, in one park, where our kids passed to reach the public library, we picked up over 1,000 needles. 1,000. This is unacceptable. Philadelphia is not just my home, but the birthplace of the nation, where our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. This is not a tragedy for just my city, but for our nation. My city and all cities deserve better. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the ones who opened our southern border and allowed Chinese fentanyl to pour in unconditionally. And life is only getting worse. Philadelphians aren't dying off fentanyl. They are dying off fentanyl as well. They are now using something called tranq, which is literally rots the flesh of the users. Do you know what the smell of rotting flesh smells like? The people of my city do. In Donald Trump, I see a leader who will end the urban nightmare. I ask you to join me in supporting him this fall, because a vote for President Trump is a vote to restore our cities and to make America safe again. Thank you. Kensington Beach for Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Coper from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right. Good evening. My name is Erin Cooper. I'm a grassroots organizer, a proud Republican woman, and a longtime resident of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm here to urge Americans to re-elect President Trump and make America safe again. But I'm also here with a warning, because in recent years, I've had a front row seat to the chaos caused by Democrats and their soft on crime policies. Democrat Mayor Ed Gainey, Congresswoman Summer Lee, and especially Socialist County Executives Sarah Innamorato have demoralized and disrespected our police while unleashing criminals into our communities. The Pittsburgh Police Department has shrunk from 991 officers in 2020 to 750 at the end of last year. Response times are soaring. One city worker got mugged at gunpoint and raced to a police station, but no one was there to help. The Democrats have given Pittsburgh defund the police on steroids. The result is crime and chaos. There were 122 murders in my county in 2022, one of the deadliest years on record. Drug deaths are also near record highs, but statistics don't tell the full story. I've been chased by drug dealers on my own street. I've seen filthy tent cities pop up on my block. I've talked to business owners who find human waste, used needles, and shell casings outside their shops. I felt the chill of fear as a woman when I'm alone in a parking garage or on the street. What the Democrats did to San Francisco, they're doing to my city. But law-abiding citizens are fighting back and saying no more. I saw this when Pittsburgh Republicans, independents, even Democrats came together to beat Soros prosecutor last November. It can happen again this November. If we stand together, we will beat the soft on crime Democrats and make our streets safe again. We can re-elect President Trump, and we can save our cities. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome American mom and funder.
Hi, my name is Ann Fundner, and I am the wife and mother of 4 children. I'm standing here today to share the tragic reality of open borders. I'm here to share the story of my firstborn son, my everything, my Weston. My family and I were living in Southern California when President Biden took office and opened our borders. My Weston was 15. He was an amazing big brother to his 3 younger siblings. Weston attended church twice a week, played football and hockey, and he loved to surf. He had a big heart, and he lived to make people laugh. He had so many good friends. And I was always vigilant to be the best mother that I could be. I was room mom, school ambassador, and I attended all of his sports. We had family dinners and barbecues at the beach. And like most teenagers, Weston wanted to fit in. And in a moment of peer pressure, he tried something that someone gave to him, and it took my baby's life. We did everything right. I had those conversations with him, and fentanyl still found my son. And on February 27th, 2022, our lives were shattered and our baby was gone. This was not an overdose, it was a poisoning. His whole future, everything we ever wanted for him was ripped away in an instant. And Joe Biden does nothing. I hold Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the borders are, what a joke. And Gavin Newsom and every Democrat who supports open borders responsible for the death of my son. Thank you. 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 And the tens of thousands of American innocent children. For that alone, they should be voted out of office. Yeah, Joe must go. Yes, he must. Joe must go. Absolutely. We have seen the highest number of fentanyl deaths during the Biden-Harris administration, and fentanyl is now the #1 killer of Americans ages 18 to 45, and it is quickly becoming the leading cause of death for teens, with 14 and under being the fastest growing demographic. We need President Trump back in office. We need a president who will seal the border, aggressively prosecute drug dealers, and stop communist China from poisoning our children. This is not a red or blue issue. This is a red, white, and blue issue. And fentanyl doesn't care if you're black or white. It does not discriminate. This is an American issue. We need a president who will call the drug cartels what they are: terrorist organizations. This fight is not for me. My son is gone. This fight is for your children. We owe it to our children to elect a president who will win the war against fentanyl once and for all. It's too late for my son, Weston. Say his name, Joe Biden. Weston. Thank you. Thank you. But we can change this for your children. We need President Trump back to save the lives of our kids. Thank you. Thank you. God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Morin family from Maryland.
Last year, we lost my beloved sister, Rachel. She went for a walk in one of our family's favorite places. This beautiful trail was to us a safe place where we pushed our babies in strollers, where we walked together as a family, where my wife and I got married, near what would later become the spot where my sister's body was found. Rachel, a joyful, accomplished athlete and mother of 5, was raped and murdered by a suspected illegal immigrant. This was described as among the most brutal and violent offenses that has ever occurred in Harford County, Maryland history. Open borders are often portrayed as compassionate and virtuous. But there is nothing compassionate about allowing violent criminals into our country and robbing children of their mother. My sister's death was preventable. The monster arrested for killing Rachel entered the U.S. unlawfully after killing a woman in El Salvador. Joe Biden and his designated border czar, Kamala Harris, opened our borders to him and others like him, empowering them to victimize the innocent. Yet, to this day, we have not heard from Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. They never apologized. But when Rachel was killed, President Trump called my family to offer his condolences. He wanted to meet with us. He cared. That is leadership. And we need real leadership back in the White House. What has gotten us through this unthinkable loss is our faith in Jesus Christ. And as brutal as the murder of my sister was, I pray that her killer will find Jesus Christ. For all the affected by senseless tragedy, I pray for peace, knowing that all things work together for good, to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. I pray that we hold worldly leaders accountable for safety and justice for innocent people. I pray that we make our country safe and secure in the memory of my sister Rachel, who loved life. Thank you. God bless America. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Madeleine Brain from New York.
Good evening, everyone. My son, Sergeant Hassan Korea, an Afghanistan War retired veteran. He received enemy fire from the Taliban, only to be murdered with a knife on the streets of New York City. The 4 assailants responsible for his death initially were facing justice. But that changed when District Attorney Alvin Bragg was elected. Suddenly, two of the homicidal maniacs responsible for my son's death had their gang assault and murder charges completely dismissed. One of them received 14 months time served. Alvin Bragg charged her with assault with a shoe. And another one was sentenced to 7 years. I later learned that Alvin Bragg often dismisses and reduces dangerous criminals. He wants to clear the jails and return violent felons onto our streets every day. The injustice was devastating for me and my family. I don't want anyone else to experience the senseless pain that many other victims across this United States of America have to live with every day. So I decided to use the voice that God gave me to be the voice for the voiceless across America. We need justice for victims, and we need accountability for prosecutors who fail in their duty. Soft on crime prosecutors like Alvin Bragg in New York, Kim Foxx in Chicago, and George Gascon in Los Angeles have turned our great country and cities into war zones. Poor and neglected communities like mine are suffering. And who else in here is sick and tired of being sick and tired? The Democratic Party that poor minorities have been loyal to for decades, including myself, all right? They betrayed us. They stabbed us in the back. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who claim to represent us, have abandoned us. They neglected the poor minority communities across America. But mine eyes have been opened. Just like so many other poor minorities across America. Donald Trump shares our values, love of God and family and country. He's been a victim of the same corrupt system that I have been and my family has been. He is committed to providing economic opportunities, helping those suffering from addiction with long-term inpatient drug programs, rolling back deadly bail reform policies that are getting our children killed every single day, and supporting our police. We back the NYPD. We back the blue. Back the blue. NYPD, black the blue. Trump was right when he said, they're after us. He's just standing in the way. And guess what? He always will. That's why I'm standing with him today. Let's make America safe again. And re-elect our Donald J. Trump. Thank you, and good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Thank you. What a powerful story to follow. Good evening. I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And before I get started, I want to say I have always been proud to stand with President Trump, but never have I been more proud than to stand with him right now, tonight. Not even an assassin's bullet could stop him. God Almighty intervened because America is one nation under God, and he is certainly not finished with President Trump. And our country is better for it. I am here tonight as America's youngest governor, the first woman to lead the great state of Arkansas. And most importantly, a mom to 3 amazing kids, Scarlett, Huck, George. When I was President Trump's White House press secretary, the best job, I got the chance to take my 4-year-old son, Huck, to Bring Your Kid to Work Day. Much like Jill now drags Joe to bring your husband to work day. And while I was briefing the president on the upcoming event in the Oval Office, all of the kids who were attending that day gathered in the Rose Garden, getting ready to meet him. And we were walking out onto that beautiful, perfect colonnade. And I saw out of the corner of my eye that my son Huck was running full speed directly at the President of the United States. Being the gracious person he is, President Trump bent down to give him a big hug. And right in front of everyone, Huck sidestepped the president, completely ignoring him in front of everyone, and ran straight into my arms. For my 4-year-old son, the most powerful man in the world had nothing on his mom. But because he's the amazing man he is, President Trump didn't mind at all. After all, he's a dad to 5 unbelievable kids and a grandfather to 10. And while that story is certainly a special memory for my family, it's an even greater reminder why I support President Trump, not for me, not for him, but for my kids and for yours. Under President Trump, America was safer. The world was safer. And it felt like the next generation would have a chance at the American dream. President Trump did the job that Kamala won't and Joe Biden simply can't. When we're honest, every American knows that we were so much better off under President Trump. So tonight, I don't want to just speak about President Trump's successful policies. While there are many, I want to talk about the man that I know. When the president hired me, I was the first mom and only the third woman to ever serve as the White House press secretary. And in that role, I endured relentless attacks from the left. I was insulted as a guest at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. My family was denied service and kicked out of a restaurant. And a parent at my 3-year-old son's preschool spit on my car. And in those moments, it was President Trump who defended me. And when an MSNBC host, the author of several books on empowering women, said I was unfit to be a mother, and another MSNBC host said I was vile, not even human, and that I should be choked, MSNBC again did nothing. But our president pulled me aside, looked me in the eye, and said, Sarah, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're tough, and they attack you because you're good at your job. Never let them stop fighting. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. That's the Donald Trump that I know. And that's the Donald J. Trump I will always respect. The left doesn't care about empowering women. Biden and Harris can't even tell you what a woman is. They only care about empowering themselves. But we have a president who believes in empowering every American and that our country is worth fighting for. For the last 4 years, Republican governors have been leading that fight and doing what Joe Biden refuses to do. We've deployed the National Guard to the border. We've cracked down on crime and drugs. We cut taxes to give hardworking Americans a break from Bidenflation. And we empowered parents with universal school choice across the country. Donald Trump was the very first president in my lifetime to take a hard line against China, and I'm proud to be the first and only governor in the country to kick communist China off our farmland and out of my state. President Trump is a leader, and he's the leader our country needs. And if ever there was a doubt, earlier this week, we saw just how tough, resilient, courageous, and daring this man is, and we can't get him back in the White House fast enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not called to stand still in the face of great danger. You and I were put on this earth at a moment in time to charge boldly ahead. We cannot know what the future holds, but we know damn sure who holds the future in his hands. God spared President Trump from that assassin because God is not finished with him yet. And he most certainly is not finished with America yet either. With God as our guide and President Trump back in the White House, we will show the world that America is the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, let us not leave here just excited about a great few days, but let us leave here energized and committed to making sure that we protect our freedom and we have the ability to pass it on to the next generation, because America is the greatest country that the world has ever known, and our kids and our grandkids deserve to enjoy it the way each of us did. And we will with President Trump back in the White House. Thank you so much. God bless the great state of Arkansas and the amazing United States of America. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Ben Carson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, Sarah Huckabee always says to me, I hate to follow you. But I think she turned the table on me tonight. I want to thank you all for being here and for being involved. Like many of you last week, I watched with horror as the events unfolded in that Pennsylvania field. I saw President Trump, a dear friend, escape death by mere inches. And my thoughts immediately turned to the book of Isaiah, that says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Well, let me tell you the weapons that they used. First, they tried to ruin his reputation, and he's more popular now than ever. And then they tried to bankrupt him, and he's got more money now than he had before. And then they tried to put him in prison, and he's freer and has made other people free with him. And then last weekend, they tried to kill him, And there he is over there, alive and well. You know, I have no doubt that God lowered a shield of protection over President Trump. And I join millions of Americans in thanksgiving for President Trump's safety. And I encourage you to join me in praying each day for his continued protection. You know, our hearts go out to the victims in the audience. Let's also pray for them and their families. These events have brought unusual clarity to the times we are living in. We have all harbored the nagging feeling that everything we love is slipping away. All you have to do is turn on the television. The free press, a pillar of any free society, has abused the public trust and resorted to lies, deception, and disinformation. They divide us along lines of race, class, and gender, rather than uniting us around our shared bond as Americans. Our government has been no better, shredding our Constitution and upending the rule of law. We have a wide open border, a broken education system, and chaos breaking out around the world. And on top of it all, we have a president who, well, if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. But ask anyone around the world, what does it mean to be an American? Most will tell you that it means unlimited opportunity. That where you begin in life doesn't dictate where you will end. That's the America I grew up in. In no other country could a poor inner city kid raised by a single mom make it to an Ivy League school, then to medical school, become a successful neurosurgeon, run for president, and eventually become a member of the president's cabinet. You know, and as a member of his cabinet, I had a chance to work closely with him. And I got to tell you, this is a man who is a gift to us as a nation. He is very gifted. He is very smart. He is very compassionate. He cares about people. And I'll tell you, the first time I met him, it was before either of us got into the political arena. And we were at Mar-a-Lago, and someone came up to him and said, "Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart just walked in." And he said, "I don't care. This is Ben Carson." But I feel blessed that I've been able to live the American dream. But my story is moving further out of reach in America today. The lessons my mother taught me, like hard work and the value of well-rounded patriotic education and faith in God above all else, are being forced out of the public square. But we're all here today because we know we can bring these things back. By God's grace, we live in a country where the people rule. We have the power to choose the kind of nation we will be and the kind of men and women that will lead us. And today the choice could not be more clear. The most repeated phrase in the Bible is this: "Do not be afraid," or "fear not." It appears 365 times in Scripture, a reminder to live each day with faith, hope, and joy as joyful warriors for Christ. And when God is with us, nobody can stand against us. With this assurance from the Almighty, Even the face of evil itself cannot shake our resolve. We will keep fighting, we will keep praying, and by the grace of God, we will save our country and re-elect President Trump together with Vice President Vance this November. And I want you to remember this. In 1831, Alexis de Tocqueville came to America to study our nation because the Europeans were fascinated. They wanted to know, how could a nation barely 50 years old already compete with them on virtually every level? So he looked at our government. He was duly impressed by our checks and balances and separation of powers. And then he looked at our business environment. He was duly impressed by how we encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. And he looked at our educational system, and he was blown away by the fact that he could find a mountain man in the middle of the woods who could read, who could tell him about the Declaration of Independence. But the thing that impressed him the most was when he went to our churches and he heard those inspirational sermons from the pulpits that inspired a ragtag bunch of militiamen to defeat the most powerful army in the world and gave the American people a moral base. And he concluded his 2-volume set, Democracy in America, with these words. He said, America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. It is our job to make America good. And let's do this by re-electing President Trump so we can make America great. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome United States Senator of Florida, Marco Rubio.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't say polo, don't say polo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The last few days remind us that the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind is in the hands of God. We were brought to the precipice of the abyss, and by the hand of God, reminded of what truly matters in our lives and in our country. This thing we do called politics, it matters. It's not unimportant. But it is our people who must always matter the most in everything we do. By giving voice to everyday Americans, President Trump has not just transformed our party, he has inspired a movement. A movement of the people who grow our food and drive our trucks, the people who make our cars and build our homes, the people whose taxes fund our government, and whose children fight our wars. Americans like Corey Comparatori. He was a former fire chief and a loving husband. He was described as the best dad a girl could ever ask for. As a man of God who loved Jesus fiercely and looked after members of his church. Corey was one of the millions of everyday Americans who make our country great. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, and the only reason why we know his name and story now is because last Saturday, he shielded his wife and daughter from an assassin's bullet and lost his life the way he lived it, a hero. For those still wondering who are in the press and many watching at home, these are the Americans who wear the red hats and wait for hours under a blazing sun to hear Trump speak. And what they want, what they ask for, it is not hateful or extreme. What they want is good jobs and lower prices. They want borders that are secure, and for those who come here to do so legally. They want to be safe from criminals and from terrorists. And they want for our leaders to care more about our problems here at home than about the problems of other countries far away. There is absolutely nothing dangerous or anything divisive about putting Americans first. Those who are offended, anyone who is offended about putting America first has forgotten what American is and what American means. American isn't the color of our skin or our ethnicity. Americans are people as diverse as humanity itself. But out of many, we are one. Because as the life story of our next Vice President, J.D. Vance, reminds us, we are all descendants of ordinary people who achieved extraordinary things. Who do we come from? We come from pioneers who ventured west to chase their dreams, and slaves who overcame bondage to claim their right to the promise of America. We come from exiles who fled tyranny in search of freedom, and of immigrants who left behind all they had and knew because they could not be or achieve God's purpose for their life in the nation of their birth. That is an American. And putting Americans first must be what this election is about. When President Trump was in the White House, Americans had more money and lower prices. Our borders were secure and our laws were enforced. Iran was broke, the Taliban stopped killing Americans, and Putin didn't invade anyone. Now, under Biden, high prices devour paychecks. Criminals and drugs are allowed to flood into our country and terrorize our people. And Iran has money to support terrorists. The Taliban humiliated us in Afghanistan, and not one, but two major wars have broken out. My fellow Americans, the only way to make America wealthy and safe and strong again is to make Donald J. Trump our president again. Our country has been injured by the bad decisions of weak leaders. But now, though bloodied by our wounds, we must stand up and we must fight. Fight not with violence or destruction, but with our voices and our votes. Fight not against each other, but for the hopes and dreams we share in common and make us one. And fight for an America where we are safe from those who seek to harm us on our streets and from abroad. And we will not be alone in this fight. For leading us in this fight will be a man who, although wounded and facing danger, he stood up and raised his fist and reminded us that our people and our country are always worth fighting for. It is time. It is time to put our country and our people first again. And if we do, together, we will make our people wealthy again. If we do, together, we will make our country safe again. Together, we will make Donald Trump our president again. And together, we will not just make America great again. We will make America greater than it has ever been. Thank you. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lara Trump.
Whoa! I don't feel like I actually have to ask this question, but is anybody in this room ready to send Donald Trump back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Well, it may not be a surprise that I actually had a very different speech that I was prepared to give up here tonight. That all changed at 6:11 on Saturday evening. Nothing prepares you for a moment like that. Our family has faced our fair share of death threats, mysterious powders sent to our homes, tasteless and violent comments directed towards us on social media, but none of that prepares you as a daughter-in-law to watch in real time someone try to kill a person you love. None of that prepares you as a mother to quickly reach for the remote and turn your young children away from the screen so that they're not witness to something that scars the memory of their grandpa for the rest of their lives. The prayers and well wishes we've received over the last 72 hours have been overwhelming, to say the least. And my heart goes out to the family who lost a husband and a father because of this senseless act. All of you here tonight and watching at home mean the world to all of us in the Trump family. If Donald Trump has shown us anything, it's that when it feels impossible to keep going, those are the times we must keep going. I don't know how many people here watching at home have ever been to a Trump rally, but if you've never been, let me tell you about them. Oh, some of you have been. Oh. Regardless of how the media have painted these rallies, you would be hard-pressed to find and to join a happier group of people coming together over their love for the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. I dare anyone trying to leave a Trump rally without leaving with some new friends. You always make friends at a Trump rally, right? Veterans, teachers, blue-collar workers, white-collar workers, active duty military, police officers, firefighters, small business owners. Latino supporters, Christian supporters, Jewish supporters, Black supporters, white supporters, Asian supporters, gay supporters, Republicans, independents, and yes, even Democrats. At a Trump rally, you're not viewed as your profession, your religion, or the color of your skin. You're viewed as one thing: an American. Last Saturday was a jarring reminder that we as Americans must always remember: there is more that unites us than divides us. We all want this country to be great, even if we don't always agree. He is fearless, and he is exactly what this country needs right now. Let's not forget what life actually looked like under President Donald Trump. Trade deals across the world that benefited our economy, allied countries paying their fair share, a safe and secure southern border, record low unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and women, record investment in historically Black colleges and universities, the creation of the United States Space Force, the most comprehensive prison reform in decades. How about the peace agreements in the Middle East that they said would never happen? The largest tax cuts in American history, our energy independence, massive amounts of red tape cut, and no new wars when Donald J. Trump was president. Maybe, most importantly though, you could actually feel it in your everyday life. Now, you didn't have to love everything that he tweeted, but you cannot deny you were better off when Donald Trump was in office. Americans were finally able to start saving money. Home prices were affordable, and gas hit a low of $1.87 a gallon. As I speak here tonight, many of our fellow Americans don't know how they'll pay for their next trip to the grocery store, new clothes for their children, or this month's rent. Many of our fellow Americans worry that we are on the verge of a major terror attack here on American soil. Many of our fellow Americans don't think their own children will be able to establish a better life than they themselves currently have. Many of our fellow Americans are right now sitting and wondering how on earth this country could have moved in the wrong direction and so quickly. The Democrats and the media know that they cannot convince you, the American people, that your life is better off now, because it's not. So what will they do? They'll try to sell you on some outrageous narrative about the terrible things that Donald Trump will do if he becomes president. But you don't have to imagine what it would be like. All you have to do is remember what it was like. I know. Oh, yeah. I know what you hear out there about Donald Trump. I know what you read, what the media tells you, and what out-of-touch celebrities on the left say about this man. But when I look at Donald Trump, I see a wonderful father, father-in-law, and of course, grandfather to my 2 young children, Luke and Carolina. I know that I'm lucky enough to get to call him my father-in-law and see him a little differently than all of you. But it's through that lens that I sometimes wish more people could see him. This is a man who has sacrificed for his family and a man who has truly sacrificed for his country. Donald Trump didn't need to run for president for fame or money. Trust me, we all know he already had plenty of that. I'll tell you why he did it and why he continues on, even in the face of the unthinkable. Because he loves this country. He did it for his grandchildren, for your children and grandchildren, and for the generations to come. I have seen this man dragged through hell and back, in and out of courtrooms, indictments, impeachments, mugshots, and even an assassination attempt. And yet, he has never backed down. I'll never forget watching my 2 children run up to him with their drawings and hugs for Grandpa, just moments before he took the elevator down in Trump Tower to address the media the day after his wrongful conviction. Despite everything else he had going on, he had no other focus in the entire world, just a man relishing time with his grandchildren. It's a side of Donald Trump that not enough people get to see. Maybe you got to see a side of Donald Trump on Saturday that you were not sure existed until you saw it with your own eyes. Martin Luther King Jr. once famously said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." There's no doubt that Saturday was one of the most frightening moments of my father-in-law's life. Millimeters separated him from life and certain death. And yet, it was in the midst of it all, as he was jostled off stage by Secret Service, that he knew how defining that moment would be for our country. And he hoisted his fist in the air. It was not just for the audience at the rally, not just for his supporters tuning in, but for all of America. And as a signal to the world that no matter what, America will always prevail. Though it's been strained and attacked, no enemy, no force, not even a bullet is strong enough to break our American grit and our American soul. We are the country whose founders gave their fortunes, freedom, and lives to pursue the dream of a free society. We are the country of Thomas Edison, Susan B. Anthony, Henry Ford, and Harriet Tubman. We are the country who fought and won 2 world wars. And we are the country who always rises to meet the moment, no matter how insurmountable the task. And in that split second, on Saturday, Donald Trump reminded us all of that very history and who we are at our core as a nation. That is the Donald Trump that I know. He is an American who conquered the business world, an American who made himself a household name, an American who was beloved by politicians and fellow celebrities for decades until he ran for office with an R next to his name. An American whom even Barack Obama admits people consider the American dream. And instead of sailing off into the sunset after an illustrious real estate and television career, he decided to give back. He decided to bring some of the things that had made him so successful in life to all of you in order to improve the lives of all Americans. Black, white, brown, gay, straight, all Americans, because that's the man that Donald Trump is. I can tell you that my personal experience with Donald Trump has shown me his heart. There wasn't a second that he made this small town girl who was way out of her element in New York City feel anything but welcomed and part of the family. And if not for the support and encouragement of my father-in-law, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's been said by many that Donald Trump sees things in people that they don't even recognize in themselves. In 2016, when he asked me to help him win my home state of North Carolina, I'll be honest, I was terrified. I had no idea how I would make it happen, but he knew I would, and I did. When I was given an opportunity to join a television network as a commentator, it was the push and support of my father-in-law that gave me the confidence to take that job. Always the first one to call or text me after a TV hit and tell me, "Great job, keep going." Not bad, right? Or even a few months ago, when he called and asked me to be the co-chair of our party. He showed me potential in myself that I couldn't yet see. So tonight, to my father-in-law, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for continuing on. Thank you for raising wonderful kids. Thank you for being an amazing grandfather. Thank you for never giving up on me. And thank you for never giving up on our country. Tonight, I come to you, not as the co-chair of the RNC, not as the daughter-in-law of the candidate. Tonight, I come to you as a mom and as a citizen of this country. For those of you watching who have never voted for Donald Trump, I know what the media and his political opponents have tried to tell you about this man. Believe me, I have seen and heard it all, but I have also seen the truth. I am proud to know Donald Trump, to campaign for him, to vote for him, and to raise his grandchildren. He will do what is necessary to protect you, protect your family, and protect this country. Because Donald Trump wants us all to be successful, to be safe, to be happy, to be strong, and to be great again. Tonight, I'm asking you to vote, not for the Donald Trump you see flashed on your TV every day, splashed across the headlines. Tonight, I'm asking you to vote for the Donald Trump that Luke and Carolina call Grandpa. I'm asking you to vote for the Donald Trump that my husband Eric calls Dad. I'm asking you to vote for the Donald Trump that I call my father-in-law. I'm asking you to vote for the Donald Trump who can and will make America great once again for all of us. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. We love you.
Oh, we're live again.
Oh.
Okay. That happened fast. Great. So, guys, Caputo, yeah, see if you can get your face in the camera. Here's my question. I had to watch that with a couple of airplane barf bags. But that's me. That's me watching Nikki Haley say exactly the opposite of everything she said. It's me watching Ron DeSantis give his stump speech from the campaign. It's me watching the very saccharine both Lara Trump and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But I'm also struck because when I watch these things, there's me, and I try to separate me from the voters that I know watch this. It's pretty well produced. People look good. People look unified. I think watching this, I guess I feel my concerns right now about the way that the Republican Party is stacking up against the Democratic Party, against Joe Biden. This is not doing anything to assuage them, I would say. So, Marc, what do you make of being there on the floor? How did people receive Nikki, Ron? It all sounded like hunky-dory.
It was. Nikki, when she first got there, there might have been a smattering of sort of boos. A few people were chanting Trump, like in a way to kind of stick it to her. Not a lot. DeSantis was met with a real thunderous applause. Like they were happy he was there. And that sort of justifies what his campaign had said the whole time. Like, look, it's not that people hate Ron. They like Ron. They just like Trump better. So, in the end, I don't know. I covered enough of these things where this is sort of typical. That is, everyone gets together and praises whoever is the nominee. What's different here, again, is just the level of commitment that Trump has from these folks. It is a unified party. It like more so than I've ever seen it. And it's energized.
Yeah, they seem energized. Hey, Will.
Oh, yeah,
Nikki Haley. Let's just talk about her for 1 sec. She basically said the opposite, as best I can tell, in that speech endorsing Trump, of everything that she said when she was running against him, specifically on the foreign policy stuff that she really cares about. Like this idea that everything was safer with Trump. She focused hard during the campaign on his abandonment of Ukraine, his terrible foreign policy. What did you make of her speech?
Well, on the Ukraine stuff, yeah. I mean, she said stuff like, Putin didn't do anything when Trump was president. He didn't invade you. I mean, she just ignored the whole proxy war that was going on the whole time Trump was there. She ignored the fact that Putin was basically trying to destroy NATO through Trump while Trump was president, which was a much bigger objective of Putin than one country. But I actually think Nikki Haley's speech may have done a lot of damage in terms of like good for Trump, bad for America. I mean, that speech was very well designed to say all of you people in the Haley vote, the people that Biden was counting on to get some of them to come over. I, as your representative, am blessing this man. I'm telling you, and the whole speech was very well designed. You know, Marc, you're always like, I mean, I look at Donald Trump and I'm like, this guy's a freaking criminal, a lunatic. He tried to overthrow the government. But you talk to like the political pros who are working for him, and I'm always surprised. Like I've always said he won't do what they say. He can't do what they say. But damn it, this convention is very well organized and the message here is very conventional. They are trying to broaden their coalition, and I think the message she delivered was, I'm sorry to say, very effective.
One thing, earlier today, I was at a briefing from one of the campaign co-managers, Chris Lasavita, or an event where he took a few questions from a George Washington University school or class, pardon me, it's a little late on my end over here. And one of the students had asked him about Nikki Haley voters and how significant they were. And Lasavita just shut it down. He's like, look, we're getting 96% support of Republicans, basically. The Nikki Haley voters, those are voters who are going to vote for us anyway. Now, that was their posture. He did say that most of them in the Republican primary who did wind up voting for Haley were more Democratic-leaning independents, or better said, Democrats or Democratic-leaning independents in open primaries. But the whole posture of the Trump campaign, in fact, I think the last time I did a podcast with Sarah, I talked about this, which was, it's fuck you. You got to come to our side. We're in charge. We run this shit. And bow down, kneel before Zod, to use the old Superman 2, reference. And that's kind of what happened. Now, is it going to work in the primary or the general? Who knows? But one of the reasons I think that Trump, is so, and for Trump, disciplined, and I know we have to be careful saying that, and the reason things are running as they are, is things are just going his way. This is the part of the chess game where all the moves he's making, he just happens to capture pieces, and Biden happens to drop his. Now, how long that lasts, I don't know. But in that environment, Trump is relaxed, and he's just not decompensating the way he had in the past. Also, I've been told that not only did Trump have 4 years to think about how he could sort of plot his way back and beat the guy who beat him and who he thought never should have beat him, but Trump was genuinely scared that he was going to go to the big house. So it was White House or big house. And, that's another reason he's been the way he has been and why things have unfolded this way.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? The specter of jail is causing him to behave, right? He's scared straight, so to speak. Scared straight.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of jail, right?
Yeah.
You want to stay out of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis for a second. It's on one hand, he gave a perfectly, and as many of them have tonight, they've given very sort of flawless speeches. Like they're getting up there, they're crisp, they're clear. He's shouting. DeSantis is doing that shouty head thing.
Oh, they loved it. The crowd loved it. They were like, anger.
I will say he still was doing his like DEI alphabet soup thing. I guess they loved it. Sure. I was watching him thinking, and Marc, you knew this. You might have been one of the first people that I talked to who was really on to DeSantis, who was like, dude's got a glass jaw, doesn't have it, can't, and then I started watching him closely and I was like, yeah, this guy is not good at this. He gave a perfectly rousing speech tonight, but there is something wooden and inauthentic about him that just doesn't land.
Yeah. And also and maybe I'm projecting my own thoughts into his mind state, but Ron DeSantis has to know that unless something major changes now, his ability to run for president successfully, if he ever could have done it, has been seriously short-circuited by the fact that J.D. Vance is the vice presidential nominee and could be a vice president. In fact, if the polling is right, is more likely than not to be vice president. J.D. Vance is the Ron DeSantis profile, but without the shrill voice and the utter lack of charisma.
Yeah.
And it's just like, where does DeSantis go now? It's funny because I said to someone today, I was like, well, hell, maybe his wife should run for governor at this point, right? May as well, because I don't know what he's going to do in 4 years at this point. I mean, tomorrow morning, DeSantis is going to the Iowa breakfast with the Iowa caucus here, or the Iowa conference or whatever. Delegates, that's the word we're looking for, delegates. So the fire burns brightly, but man, there's like, Vance does all the things that DeSantis does, except for the fact that, like, DeSantis does, or better said, Vance does them well.
Yeah.
Can I chime in on DeSantis
Please.
for a minute? So, Marc, it was interesting to me to hear what you said about the reception inside the hall, too.
Yeah, they like him. Yeah.
I thought, Sarah, you can tell me what you thought. I thought on TV, I was seeing in the back-to-back Haley and DeSantis a contrast between the two people who ran against Trump, and I thought DeSantis was terrible. I thought he looked terrible after Haley, because Haley, although I hated what she was saying, she looks like someone who is comfortable with herself.
Yeah,
and DeSantis does not. DeSantis, and Sarah, you said this way back, you guys, when DeSantis was leading Trump in polls or was even with him, that he didn't look like he had it. I didn't really understand this. DeSantis has these lines that people give him. He has a shtick. He's got
those are his lines, man. Those are his lines.
Right, but he's got an agenda. He's got like talking points. But as a person, he looks uncomfortable. He doesn't look like and we saw this with him trying to talk to people in Iowa. What's your name, Tim? Oh, hi. Like he just couldn't relate to them. And so, in addition to Vance being in DeSantis's way, I think Haley's in DeSantis's way. DeSantis is in DeSantis's way. He just doesn't have it the way these other politicians do.
I think DeSantis is in the way of DeSantis. Yeah, I don't think Nikki Haley's not in anybody's way, because Nikki Haley's running in an alternative universe where the Republican Party is a completely different party than what she thinks it is, than what she thinks she's a part of. I was struck by her speech, though, because there's just an alternative universe where she is president and an enormously competent one. She is very good at getting up there and giving a talk and looking good and sounding good. It's just so disgusting, though. It's like so difficult to stomach. And I gotta say, I guess this is a small enough audience that I feel that I almost just tweeted this, but like,
don't do it. Trust me, man. I've been
get
there.
ready for the viral.
Marc.
Oh, I've been there.
I'm just gonna admit something where I was wrong. Nikki had me for a minute there, when she was really running at him hard, and she was the last person standing. She had me for a minute thinking she wasn't gonna endorse this guy, and that's really wrong. Like, and it was funny because people were like hard on me about it. It was one of those where everyone's like, what are you talking about? She is obviously going to endorse him. She has, and I don't know. I felt like she was kind of feeling herself and she believed it and it was true. But man, you know what? Watching her up there tonight say everything contrary to what she was saying, like at least DeSantis was giving his same stump speech and just like throwing Trump's name in from time to time. Nikki Haley was like reversing herself completely. And that's why she's good at it. She has no core, no center.
Can I argue? Let me argue the other side just for a minute.
Please.
If you go back to the Haley-Christie fight in the primaries, there was a tell, I think, early on as to what each of them would do. And that is, what did they say about the alternative to Trump? Haley said she was building a case that Biden and Harris were so awful, so crazy left, whatever, and that's why we have, and Christie did not do that. Christie said Donald Trump is unfit, categorically unfit. She never went that far. She said Trump was bad, but she held out this option. And tonight, Sarah,
she later on said unfit. She got to unfit.
She did say something like that, but tonight,
but not categorically unfit.
But what she did in this speech tonight was that
there,
she played that card. She said the Democrats have gone so far crazy left that we have to. And she said it was almost a default. We have to vote for Trump because we have to stop them.
Which, by the way, just in the focus groups, is the favored rationalization of people who still think Trump is a scumbag and do not like what he represents in terms of how he's changed the Republican Party. But the Democrats are worse line is the thing that lands. And I got to say, the Republicans have done a remarkable job, and I think it's a real indictment of Democratic messaging capabilities that they're able to take a guy who did a coup, became an adjudicated rapist, and then also was found guilty on 34 counts. And like, they're able to all be like, yeah, fine. Like the Democrats, the fact that Democrats, people of just like normal people who read the Wall Street Journal think Democrats are worse than that, is like, what are Democrats doing if they can somehow make this Democrats seem worse? And, you know, I heard a lot of it tonight, right? A lot of the lines that you hear over and over again, they don't even know what a woman is, right? Like they've got this, and I hear that a lot from the voters, not sometimes that line almost verbatim, but also the gender stuff, really does land with people. It's one of these things that people will say, like, makes the Democrats worse. Joe Biden, you know, and I don't know. They have made the fact that they, with all their baggage and liabilities, can say that the Democrats are worse is wild, but that is landing with people.
I'm kind of shocked at that. When I was watching Nikki Haley and she's sort of brushing aside, and the line we heard tonight, we heard a couple of people talk about, oh, it's mean tweets. They categorize Trump's failings as mean tweets as like a way of minimizing it. But the line I thought was, you know, is it Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the knight has just slaughtered a bunch of people at a and the father-in-law says, oh, let's not bicker and argue about who killed who. And that was kind of the tone tonight. It was like, you know, yeah, never mind the Trump. And they sort of portrayed Trump as like an unjust victim, like his prosecution was akin to the guy trying to shoot him, you know. And so they just managed somehow to brush this all aside. Maybe in a month we see a Democratic convention that brings it back, but I'm worried that Americans don't care. Sarah, I don't know what you're saying in the focus groups. I'm worried that people just don't care about. I mean, Lara Trump said, remember what it was like. You remember what it was like under Trump. And maybe most people think they don't really care about January 6th. They care about, you know, what inflation rate was at that point.
I think that's true. You know, this is not the forum that I've had conversations with more normal voters and people. But to those people with whom I've spoken who are not political obsessives, they don't think it's lawfare against the president, but they do think it's partisan. And so it's difficult, I think, for Democrats to make that stick, because there's this interesting divide in the mind of the electorate, or seeming contradiction, where a majority to plurality of the electorate in a number of polls will say that they think Donald Trump is a criminal, but that the charges against him are partisan.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's this weird dynamic, but it's just hard for Democrats to make that stick. And then, yeah, Sarah, to your point, I mean, I was talking about this yesterday with someone, one of the speakers, Bob, oh man, I mispronounced his name, Unuwane, or I apologize, I should be better at this. He's the president and CEO of Goya Foods. And he became a thing in 2016 because there was a Hispanic Heritage Month, and he appeared at a press conference at the White House with the president at the time. It wasn't 2016, pardon me, it was 2020. And he got bodied by these Latino civil AOC. They tried to boycott Goya Foods. And it became this kind of dividing line issue that Republicans were very good at discussing by saying, look at Democrats. There are these scolds who want to take away your beloved food brand, like Goya is a beloved brand here. And they want to tell you, they want you to change your language. They want to take gender out of your language. And, you know, now you're Latinx. And that speaks to a lot of people, man. We might think it's crazy, but like a lot of people are personally offended by changes of language, by being, you know, the gender being told that gender is a social construct, like that sticks with people. It's culture, and it sticks with them.
It's culture. It does stick with people. I think that the way that this stuff, it's accessible. I'm trying to think about how to say this that doesn't sound. These are issues that everyone can have an opinion on. Whereas if you start talking about like tariffs or Taiwan or like whatever, people might be like, I don't know if I have an opinion on that. But the definition of woman, the idea about trans people playing sports, even abortion, I've always thought one of the reasons, there are things that are accessible to people and there are things that are personal to people. And because they're personal, they're accessible. It's actually right now one of the things that you hear about Joe Biden's age, right? People talk about, oh, I see that in my dad, or I saw that in my parents, or this is why you need to take away the keys. People have context for these things. And so it's easy for them to have opinions on it in a way that like the policy stuff that we, nerds want to debate. A lot of people are like, I don't care about that. I'm mad about dudes in skirts playing sports, whatever. And that's the stuff that gets people. It's absolutely, you hear a lot more about that in the focus groups, listening to people, about why they oppose Democrats than it is they don't like their policy on healthcare. Although immigration is one policy where you still hear a lot of people, a lot of immigration talk tonight, talk. But let me ask you just about the women. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Lara Trump both did like a, let me humanize this guy for you. Like they clearly sent some women out to do the women's work of saying, no, Donald Trump is a grandfather and a father and a decent man and God protects him. What did you make of the sort of let's humanize Trump effort there?
Well, the humanization stuff, they send out the women to humanize the guy. It's sort of classic gender role stuff. Does it work? Laura's talking up in personal terms, and she's talking right after her father-in-law had an attempted assassination. So that's an entryway for people to relate to her. I can understand that. I think she went on too long with it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was trying to do he stood up for me when I was being belittled as a woman. Like MSNBC hosts are like the big threat to America. I wasn't buying it. I don't know if anybody else was. I was really struck by one thing Sarah Huckabee Sanders said. She used this line, and I've heard a couple of other people use it tonight. She said that when they shot at Trump, why did he live? God spared him. She said, God saved him because God is not finished with him yet. And it's a line, we've heard this line before. It was Jesse Jackson, like 1984. He did a whole speech about God is not finished with me. Jesse Jackson's speech was, God is not finished with me because I need to improve. He was talking about Hymietown, the stuff he had said about Jews, and he needed to be a better person. That's not the context here. God is not finished with me is all about Donald Trump is who he is. You got to take him as he is. We don't care that he's a convicted criminal. We don't care about any of his vices or sins or crimes. And it's just that he's being anointed. It's a kind of, I'm trying not to use the F word here, but like he's being deified and made into like the guy who survived the assassination, and we must all follow him and unite behind him.
Yeah, we saw the thing you hear time and again. Hell, I think one of these huckster ministers was selling like gold-plated coins a few years ago, calling Trump Cyrus. That Cyrus was the pagan god or a pagan Persian leader who appears with the Book of Ruth, and is the arm of God, and they view him that way. I'm surprised we didn't. Of the things, just considering the almost religious fervor, or actually religious fervor that people are saying here, I'm almost surprised that you didn't hear more of it there. You said something interesting, Sarah, about immigration. It's interesting how they brought in some kind of normies or regular people who just had these horrible stories. And now we bring on someone whose child was murdered, and it's just like whoa. And so there's this divide where you have the elites, you have the Lara Trumps and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and then you have the mom whose kid was just murdered, it was just, it's just an interesting way in which I think information is being broadcast here, where when they say like this is the experience of regular people, it's just like it's like misery and death, and obviously it sets up Trump as being the only solution to it. But it just struck me as just being kind of very raw.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the Democratic National Convention, you will probably hear regular women tell stories about not being able to get access to healthcare because of the abortion laws. And so there will be attempts to sort of do this kind of human, regular people telling their stories about how these policies affect them. But there's no doubt yes, tonight I was watching that part. It was pretty potent. What about was anybody struck by the fact that Lara Trump and a couple other people, they kept, and maybe it was running together, but it sounded like she was saying, and gay people, and there was actually a bunch of rhetoric, and not just on the gay stuff, but like there were several monologues that went into about we're a big diverse culture, how we all come together out of many one. Rubio sort of did this. I haven't talked about Rubio yet. I don't know, man. I would have picked him. He's a good choice. He's good at this. But what did you make of the big tentishness of the conversations?
They're supposed to do that, right? So they
I don't know. Do we like gay people? I thought they were groomers now. I can't keep up with who we're mad at.
No, actually, on the gay people thing, they weren't, okay, there's a category that's like black and brown, where they were saying, we embrace these people, you are us, okay, that's one level. Then there was gay people who used to be vilified, and now more or less silent. Occasionally, what was it last night, the influencer or whoever she was talked about, like, you can love whoever you want. I mean, and people stood up and cheered for that. And I thought that was an opportunity for anybody who is pro-gay, sympathetic to people of all orientations. That was cool, because the villain that they've set up is the trans people. Like the Republicans. Look, I'm an old Democrat. Republicans are great at this culture war stuff, and they find some group is the enemy. They love the sex stuff, so they've found the trans people. The trans people are hated. They've managed to pit everyone else against them. So it's like, we love women. We love your daughters. We want to protect them from biological males who are trying to compete in their sports. And so as long as the trans are the enemy, then the gay people can somehow be accepted. And we're still simultaneously, somewhat bigoted, but also welcoming to, more people than we used to be.
What do you think, Mark? It sounded big tentish to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, it did. That's what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's not like people are really watching this. Most people are not watching this stuff the way we are. But this is a big show, right? And the Democrats are going to have one too. And they're going to have messaging. It's all marketing. And, as part of the marketing, they're at least engaging in this artifice of they're painting by numbers. This is the stuff you're supposed to do. We're a unity party, right? We're going to talk about unity stuff, except for the murderous illegal immigrants that are, breaking into homes and slaughtering people. But, by and large, like that helps further the message. The platform, as they've pointed out, for the first time in, decades, has removed the opposition to gay marriage. So, there has been this sort of few steps forward and few steps back thing. I do think that at its core, Donald Trump is a lot more gay friendly. He's part of the more gay friendly wing of the Republican Party than DeSantis. Yeah. And I hate using the don't say gay thing, but that fight that grew out of Florida really sort of dragged the Republican Party back to its kind of anti-gay roots. And I just feel, and maybe I'm being fooled, that Trump is sort of kind of nudging them a little back forward. Now, I said gay, not trans. I agree with you entirely that the trans are being used as a foil in this case.
Yeah, I mean, look, Trump's secret weapon has always been the fact that he is perceived as a cultural moderate. And a lot of that is stuff that's like prior to his political career, you know? Caitlyn Jenner can use any bathroom he wants. I'm a celebrity. I hang out with those other celebrities. If you talk to Black voters who like Trump, oftentimes don't buy the racism stuff because they see him having Black friends and, you know, like people that he's hung out with, and the same way that they don't think that he's pro-life like the rest of them because they're pretty sure he paid for some abortions. Like, you know, the voters just don't see him. Like, they're like, I don't know, didn't, you know, Elton John play one of his weddings or something? I mean, I think that was Rush Limbaugh, but, you know, in general, I think people just see him as a cultural moderate.
Yeah, I think to repurpose a Donald Trump quote, when you're a celebrity, they let you do anything.
Yeah.
And he was a celebrity. He was a cultural figure. And, you know, they say politics is downstream of culture. What happens if you're a cultural figure before you're a politician? This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Is this just a matter of polls? I mean, if you look at polls over the last 40 years, the two things where I see massive cultural shifts, one is marijuana and the other is homosexuality. And the polls just moved. And it seems like the Republican Party is just really good at being on the edge of these things. So we're still going to be sexually bigoted, but we can't do that against gay people anymore because the youngs won't go with us if we do that, right? And so we're inclusive to that extent, but we need to have somebody who's the devil, somebody who's, so it's like woke ideology, gender ideology, they're trying to like mess with your pronouns, that kind of thing. And you guys, Sarah, I'm alarmed to hear what you're telling me about the focus groups, because I'd like to believe that the election, one way or the other, will be decided on things like inflation, you know, or foreign policy, or, you know, crime, or the border. And what if it's decided by pronouns and this nonsense? That's so depressing.
It's not that. It's not that. It is that I think that there is a category of voter that is a Republican that does not like Donald Trump, but needs an excuse, right? And for those people, the Democrats are worse argument lands. And they point to places where I would say they sort of perceive the Democrats to be on the extreme end of something, whether it's immigration, whether it's these cultural issues, and that is their sort of Democrats are worse. And this is where I think, okay, is the Democrats' position, to the extent that they have one on trans sports, worse than not engaging in the peaceful transfer of power? I'd say it's not worse, but that's me. That's me. I don't know if you guys had any other impressions. I guess I am, the thing about the swing voters, I know, it's just like, you're in the mode right now of, you know, when the reason that I am so alarmed is that I think that the Republicans are presenting, obviously, a picture of unity with Nikki Haley, with Ron DeSantis, with the sort of the Democrats are worse. We are all lining up against this. We're all getting behind Trump at a time when the Democrats are, you know, sometimes when you talk to people now, they're like, well, whoever the Democratic nominee is, you know, like, it's like there's still a lack of certainty over, will it definitely be Joe Biden? And if it is, you know, what does a Joe Biden convention look like? What does his speech sound like? How do people unify in the same way? The Democratic convention is when?
August.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah. I don't know the exact date.
I think it's the 19th.
So they've got it really underscores that the Democrats have 4 weeks to figure out how to not just unify and rally, but like get excited about it. And
well, they already had a Gaza problem, like,
yeah,
you know, and that was before that, like, oof.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Sarah, about the political analysis. We have a unified party, we have a divided party, but I'm also just like, watching this tonight, I was just really worried for our country. And I don't want to like totally freak out about it, but like what we saw tonight was like, our country's being invaded.
Yeah.
We need law and order, and except for Donald Trump, except for this guy who is our hero, he is unjustly persecuted by an evil justice system. They shot at him. He survived. He is a deity to us. I'm just seeing all the makings of, you know, what we would call in any other context a kind of authoritarianism, and it's being embraced at a rally. So yeah, it was really scary to me.
So, and I gotta say, Will, I think it is weird because there's on one level, every convention has its conventions, and in this sense, it is conventional to everybody praise the nominee, right? The nominee should be praised and is, did a good job, and we want to reelect him. Like, that's the point of a convention. On the other hand, the sort of emperor has no clothes element of people ignoring big fatal flaws in Donald Trump and the lavish, the way that the praise is lavished. There is something that feels not normal. Like, people would just be like, Mitt Romney, heck of a guy, not this. Donald Trump is the savior of America. And if we don't have him, the whole thing is going to fall into the ocean in embers. Like, it just, it has this,
King of Kings. Yeah, King of Kings, first of his name.
Yeah.
Lord of the Andals. Negus and Nagast. Like a conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. You're going to hear more of it. The Washington Post did sort of a sloppy story that was both kind of ridiculous but right at the same time. They talked about like Donald Trump's great luck as of late, which includes being shot and surviving. But you talk to everyone on the hall here, around here, and they're all saying the same thing. Like, not only was it proof of God's favor for him, but it's just evidence that Donald Trump is a winner. And, winning begets winning. What this is going to look like, I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts from either of you guys as we wrap up here?
Nope.
Will, I think you were taking notes, so it seems like maybe you have something on your mind. I did the open-ended closer because it seemed like
I just want to
Will
get a
had
beer
a
at the
thing.
CNN Grill.
Yeah, I got to say most of what I wanted to say about tonight. I mean, I if I'm going to write something, it's really about this this law and order stuff mixed in with, Ben Carson and I can't remember how many other people talked about this. They have managed to blur Trump's criminality, his adjudicated criminality, into being shot at, being impeached, being falsely accused of this and that. They've managed to construct this persecution narrative, and I really hope it doesn't stick, but I'm worried to see. I want to look at polling after this and see how many people believe this garbage.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. I know we had to stay up late. Marc, go get a drink. Say hi to all the other people there. Good luck. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll do this again tomorrow night.